Charles Madsen said icily, "I consider this a breach of trust," in a tone as calculated and cutting as a scalpel. The late morning sunlight glinted off the chrome edges of the desk as he reclined in his elegant office chair. Behind him glistened the 34th floor vista of downtown San Francisco, but the mood in the office was anything but cheery. I sat across from him, still trying to figure out why he had called a sudden meeting at 10:30 a.m. with the name QuickSync. Quick things did not appeal to Charles. The printed email stood between us, face up, like a verdict. With his expression unreadable, he tapped the corner with one well-groomed finger. "You interviewed with Telomere Digital last Thursday," the staff member said. "You reported a medical appointment." I blinked quickly. Yes, I did. I had no idea I needed to declare every moment. It was a private day. Unsure whether I was being sarcastic or innocent, he cocked his head. "We expect honesty from our team, Jenna. Loyalty." He held up his hand as I opened my mouth to reply. "I'm not interested in excuses," he said. "We have it on good authority you met with their director of strategy over coffee at their campus." They had therefore begun to dig. I gripped my leather tote's handle. They started to shake a little. I concealed them in my lap. "Hello, I'm Jenna Pierce. My age is 33. For the past 6 years, I have dedicated myself fully to legacy tech solutions. I was an important part of the client growth division, not just a worker. I had created procedures, reorganized unsuccessful initiatives, and obtained the most significant technological contracts for the company. Due to last-minute client concerns, I had missed holidays, birthdays, and even my engagement celebration. And suddenly, it didn't matter." Charles clenched his hands together and leaned forward. "Security will lead you to your desk. As of right now, your building access has been terminated. We have already disabled your company devices." As if it were radioactive, he got up and slipped my business badge over the desk. "I'm sorry it had to end this way." But there was no regret visible in his eyes. The degree of regret was not negligible. I stood up slowly, adjusting my blue jacket. I kept my voice calm, even though my heart was pounding in my chest. "I'm grateful for the chance to develop here," I said, holding out my hand. His forehead wrinkled a little, surprised at my composure. "No hard feelings?" I gave a small smile. "Not from me." The security guard was already outside the entrance. I was unable to identify him. He was frequently hired for occasions like these. As I packed away my desk, which had pictures of my parents, a little ceramic cactus I had purchased following my promotion, and a stack of color-coded notes, others around me slowed down. Workers muttered. Several folks stared openly. Others decided not to look them in the eye. My coworker Dylan mouthed a startled, silent, "What?" I only gave one nod and carried on tacking. A single package held all the contents. That sums up to 6 years. I carried 20 pounds of crushed hopes, trinkets, and paper. I wasn't overtaken with sadness when I left the building and went into the crisp spring air. Not even anger was involved. It is a relief. I slipped the package into the backseat of my car and jumped in. Before I could even turn on the engine, my phone buzzed. "My name is Asha Malik, Vice President of Talent at Telomere Digital. Hello, Jenna. I hope you're having a good morning. Could we speak at 3 p.m. today? We are ready to move forward." It was then that I truly smiled. Charles thought he was reprimanding me. He believed that this situation marked the end of my career. However, he was unaware that he had just unlocked a door that I had been afraid to enter. I was halfway there already. In addition to having a different appearance than legacy tech, the Telomere Digital campus had a different vibe. The refurbished industrial building in Mission Bay was spacious and light, adorned with plants that softened every nook and cranny. I hadn't seen employees move with such a casual attitude in years. There were no anxious looks at ticking clocks or stress in the air, only momentum and guidance. Wearing the same navy suit I had worn to legacy tech client pitches, I arrived early with my notebook and resume folder. Not having a badge around my neck felt strange. For the first time in years, I felt free. In the glass-paneled atrium, Asha Malik shook my hand firmly and smiled warmly as she welcomed me. She was younger than I had anticipated, possibly in her mid-30s, and she wore a simple cream blouse and black pants. Her manner was refined but unpretentiously kind. She said, "Jenna, we're so happy you could make it on short notice. Please follow me and we'll proceed directly to the meeting room. Already present is our VP of Strategy." As I followed her throughout the open-plan workplace, I saw several recognizable faces from industry gatherings, including analysts, marketing managers, and folks I had only met through conference panels and LinkedIn posts. They were now co-workers in waiting. Nonetheless, they could potentially become colleagues. Two men and a woman were in the conference room with the glass walls, going over a slide deck on a big tablet. Noah Reyes, the vice president of strategy at Telomere, sat in the middle of the table, and I had met him at a panel discussion last quarter. When I walked in, Noah was standing. "Hello, Jenna. We had been anticipating this." I shook his hand and grinned. "I'm grateful. I have too." Asha motioned for me to sit down and shut the door after us. She settled into her chair and added, "Let's be honest. We are aware of this morning. Charles made contact." He had, of course. I answered in a bland tone. "I figured as much. When he feels outmaneuvered, he usually doesn't waste time." Noah arched an eyebrow. "Outwitted?" I said, "I didn't intend to get fired today, but I also didn't intend to continue to wait for a promotion that would never come." Clara Zoe, head of brand, the woman across from me, nodded in silent comprehension. According to what we've heard, Legacy manages internal growth. Or doesn't. Although I didn't open my notebook, I took a quick look at it. In the past 3 years, I have made 3 requests for pay changes, each supported by industry comparisons, contract values, and client retention indicators. Each time, I received feedback indicating that the timing wasn't appropriate. After quarterly meetings, our senior personnel dined at Ruth's Chris and drove Teslas while the company rented 2 additional floors. "I recognize that," Clara whispered. Noah bent over. "Unless you want to, we would rather not force you to go over it again. We are here to discuss your preferences for the next steps." That was an unexpected inquiry. I didn't know why I was heading there or what assistance I could offer. It was what I longed for. I stopped. "I want to build something," he added. "Teams, systems, and long-term brand growth are more important than advertising alone." Since I was too important in that role to be promoted out of it, I have been stuck in account service for the past 6 years. I want the opportunity to think creatively. Asha grinned. "All right, we also desire that specific outcome." She retrieved a document from a stylish leather folder and passed it over the table. "This is no longer an interview," Noah declared. "Your work has been seen by us. Since your Lucid Tech campaign last year, you have been on our radar." I blinked. "That wasn't my biggest account at all." Clara went on, "But it was your smartest. You did a fantastic job segmenting. Even though your former employer didn't see it, we did." I looked at the paper below. "We have extended an employment offer to you, Head of Brand Collaborations. The offer includes not only competitive pay, but also additional benefits. I was given options for stocks, a 2-year route to vice president. This was more than just a part. It was the future." I said, "I need 24 hours, more out of habit than necessity, just to make sure everything is reviewed correctly." Asha gave a nod. "Obviously. However, Jenna," I raised my head. "Hello. Welcome home." When I got back, the flat was silent. Too silent. I put the Telomere offer letter on my kitchen counter and stared at it like it was about to explode. Unopened on the floor at the entrance was my Legacy Tech box, that last cardboard memorial to 6 years of overachievement and underappreciation. I was too exhausted to unpack it. I'm still wearing my suit. I kicked off my heels, dropped my purse, and slumped into the couch. Even though it was only 5:30 p.m., the day's burden felt like midnight. Not only was I in between jobs, I was more than simply in transition. I had freedom. However, I discovered that the experience of freedom can often feel a lot like falling. My phone buzzed softly, breaking the silence. Olivia. Olivia was my closest companion. I was the only one who knew how much I had invested in that work and how little I got back. My response was, "I just saw Slack blow up. Are you all right?" I exhaled. "I'm digesting." "Were you really fired?" Her tone was piercing with incredulity. "Like that?" "Just like that. Security walked out." "Jesus." I added, not knowing why I felt the need to mention. "I didn't cry." Olivia gave a quiet, melancholy laugh. "You obviously didn't. It's you, Jenna Pierce." Wasn't that what was wrong? I had been the calm one, the dependable one, and the unflappable one for so long that I forgot what losing it felt like. I remarked, "They made it about loyalty. It's as if they believe that just because they provided me with my past, I am obligated to give them my future." Olivia yelled, "That's such corporate bullshit. They took advantage of you. You have been carrying that customer portfolio for the last 2 years, as everyone at Legacy is aware. No one else was able to save the accounts you received." I remained silent, since it was accurate. She paused and then asked, "What are you going to do now?" The folder was still on a counter when I turned to face the kitchen. "I've made an offer, from the telomere." A pause occurred. "Jenna, God, oh God, are you serious?" "It's true. In person, Asha Malik gave it to me." "Please confirm that there is a comma in the appropriate place in the salary." For the first time in the day, I laughed. "More than correct. It meets all of my requests and exceeds them." "So what's preventing you?" I paused. "Nothing. And everything." She took her time with me. I whispered softly, "For so many years, I convinced myself that loyalty would reap rewards, that if I simply put in more effort, waited longer, and continued to prove myself, someone would eventually take notice, that they would look after me in the same manner that I looked after the work. And instead, they showed you exactly what you meant to them," Olivia remarked softly. She couldn't see me nodding, but I did. I said, "It hurts. Not because I desired to remain, but since I didn't go first." She murmured softly, "You were waiting for permission, and they delivered it to you in the most inhumane manner." For a while, we sat in silence. Olivia's voice then became much softer. "Jenna, now is your chance to make your own decision, for once. So go ahead and do it. Don't wait for another person to declare you prepared. You are already." My throat constricted. I took a deep breath. "Thank you," I muttered. "That was what I needed to hear." She said, "Sleep on it. However, don't delay too much. Your entire life is waiting." I stood in the kitchen after we hung up, poured a glass of red wine, and then opened the telomere folder. The offer, the benefits package, and the start date, Monday, were all there. 4 days had passed. I gazed out the window at the shimmering city lights on the other side of the bay. The fatigued yet sharp-eyed reflection of myself peered back. At Legacy Tech, the woman had been invisible. However, her appearance was imminent. The following morning, at 8:42, I was pouring coffee into a broken mug that I hadn't used since graduate school when I received the call. The voice was clear and purposeful as it queried, "Jenna Pierce?" "Talking." "It's Natalie Wexler here. I am a board member at Legacy Tech. I think there has been something about your job." I just stared at the counter for a while. Although I had never heard the name before, the tone made it clear that this was a serious person. She was also phoning me, not Charles. I answered, "I'd describe it as more of a decision." "I get it. If you're free today, I'd want to meet with you, in person." I blinked. "You'd like me to return to Legacy Tech?" "Just a talk," she said with ease. "It's strictly off the record.
At 10:30, I'll be in the executive conference room, if you're open to it. A pause occurred. I had the option to decline. I had every motive to do so. However, something inside of me answered yes, whether out of curiosity or a need for closure. I will be present, I declared, but to be clear, I'm not coming back. Thank you for being so honest, Natalie said. I will see you soon. By 10:20, I found myself back in Legacy Tech's lobby, but this time I was a guest rather than an employee. When Morgan, the front desk employee, spotted me, she looked twice. As I signed in, her voice faded to a whisper. Everyone is discussing what transpired. Most of us believe it was incorrect. You weren't worthy of that. Sincerely, I said, thank you. You don't realize how much that means. The voyage in the elevator felt oddly symbolic, like returning to the storm to retrieve something I had left behind. The executive meeting room was empty when I arrived. The door then opened. Sharp-eyed and wearing a fitted black suit, Natalie Wexler was in her late 40s. She extended her hand. I appreciate you coming. I noticed the solid grip when I shook it. No bullshit. She sat down and opened a small folder, saying, I've reviewed your personnel file. Her overperformance has been documented for 6 years. All 3 of the official requests for a pay review were turned down. Since 2019, your name has been on every significant client victory. She looked up. I had no idea about this pattern. We designed our executive review procedure to handle compensation in a fair manner. It appears that Charles has been using excessive discretion. I remained silent. Let her speak. Additionally, she added, there is no policy that forbids exploratory discussions with other companies. The reason for your termination was disloyalty. That word isn't legal. I smiled a little. This one is emotional. She gave a nod, and, apparently, bad judgment. A pause. She bent over. The board wants to make the reinstatement offer. Return right away. Title, Senior Account Director. Additionally, you requested a 10% raise in your pay package during the previous cycle. I stared at her. That's giving. However, it's too late. Natalie's face remained unchanged. She had anticipated that response. Where are you going next, may I ask? I would rather not say. She folded her hands. Charles thinks you're going to steal some of our business. I refuse to accept anything, I said calmly. However, some customers might decide to follow. That lingered in the air, Natalie. What could we have done differently? She asked after a pause. It was a surprise question. It was unexpected. After giving it some thought, I spoke gently. Before I had to leave to establish my worth, you might have recognized it. When I presented the data, findings, and justifications, you had the opportunity to listen. Loyalty is not mindless compliance. This relationship is reciprocal. You broke one. Natalie nodded slightly. I appreciate your candor. She got up and held out her hand again. I wish you success, Miss Pierce, wherever you end up. I'm grateful. I have. By the second time in 2 days, I left Legacy Tech. However, I left this time with more confidence. This time, the story wasn't about dismissal. It was about making the decision to never look back.
Monday morning came sooner than I thought. I had hardly slept at all. It was a curious, throbbing expectancy, not nervousness. For the first time in years, I didn't need to prove myself to those who feared my replacement. I entered Telomere Digital's glass doors at 8:02 a.m., this time as their new director of brand partnerships rather than as a visitor. My office door had a stylish nameplate that said, Jenna Pierce. The office was large and had lots of natural light. A sizable window provided a view of Mission Bay. On my desk was a tiny welcome box that contained a handmade message from Asha, fruit, dark chocolate, and a branded hoodie.
We are fortunate to have you here. Together, let's construct something audacious. I met with my new team at 9, which consisted of 5 intelligent, astute marketers whose resumes I had perused over the weekend. I was older than some of them. They were all excited. I wasn't the one vying for a place at the table for the first time. I was responsible for it. Noah knocked on my door after a brief introduction to the team and a summary of our plan. He said, "Do you have a moment?" Obviously. He came in holding a tablet. "We need your opinion on a contract decision." I arched an eyebrow. "Already?" He grinned. "Fire baptism." He gave the medication to me. The screen displays a summary of Telomere's upcoming marketing partner review. I reviewed the list. It was there. Legacy Tech provided the solutions. Still bound by the deal. The agreement remains in effect for the foreseeable future. In 4 weeks, their contract was due for renewal. The team had selected 3 finalists: Legacy Technology. The team chose a boutique firm located in Palo Alto. Meridian Creative is an emerging firm that offers a compelling proposal and innovative concepts. On the other side of me was Noah. We're shifting our position away from legacy. We're dealing with a slow turnaround, inconsistencies, and a noticeable decline in competitiveness. However, we wanted to read it. We both understood why this was delicate, even if he didn't say it. I had worked there. I had contributed to the survival of their account. One statement would have been enough to torpedo them, and nobody would hold me responsible. I glanced at the tablet once more. Thereafter, put it aside. I suggest that we assess them based on the same standards as everyone else, I stated cautiously. Work quality, adaptability, inventiveness, culture matched. No feeling, only measurements. Noah gave a nod. That's reasonable and intelligent. I want to create a team that has honest leaders, I stated, and I am the first to do that. At 11:07 a.m., Telomere made the final decision to proceed with Meridian Creative. The email was succinct and professional. At the end of the month, the collaboration with Legacy Tech would come to an end. Jenna Pierce, the former worker they dismissed as a liability, would manage the changeover. Don't boast, no revenge. Poetry only. The city hummed beneath me as I sat on my balcony that evening. Congratulations, LinkedIn messages, and a few subtly heard the news texts from former coworkers filled my inbox. Morgan, the front desk associate, even sent me a congratulatory message. Charles's primary focus on legacy is to minimize damage. This week, 3 clients had concerns. Without uttering a single word, you made your point. I composed a brief response while grinning. Best wishes to everyone there. Regards. Since I did. I had learned how to be great at Legacy Tech, but I was not given the opportunity to develop there. They didn't shatter me when they fired me. They set me free. And ultimately, anger and fury weren't the best forms of retaliation. The key was to overcome everything with poise, foresight, and indisputable outcomes. Years had passed while I awaited recognition. I didn't need anyone's approval anymore. I was truly at home, and I had only just begun.